I'm going to go over to a very good friend of mine whose books are here on the shelf, uh, starting with An Idiot's Guide to Tai Chi, moving moving on to nearly 25 years. And you know that we had a very successful session recognizing the work of Bill and Angela on their 25th anniversary of World Tai Chi Day. But now we're joining the big boys, the really big boys. Bill is already there. Please, Bill, I'm going to give you as much time as you want. And Sharon comes on about 5:30. And we've got time to spend on some questions and answers. And I'm going to, after a few minutes, invite Frank, he calls himself Frank LeBlanc, the white man. I don't know why, but Frank Ferrer is his name, and I'm sure he's going to come up with a very good question for you a little while later. Over to you, Mr. Douglas.
Thank you, Keith. Thanks so much for all the work that you do. And I just want to thank everybody here. This program has been just really fascinating, very exciting. And I thought what I would do, I wanted to talk about the Global Transformation Project. It looks like Siobhan just put the website up in the chat, so everybody has the website. And what I thought I'd do is I'd start with the vision and then explain why it's really a critical thing to happen at this time in human history. And then the other thing is how. And so the vision of the Global Transformation Project is, just this morning, we've seen this incredible wisdom being shared by people who have practiced and experienced the benefits, the transformative benefits of mind body. And you can tell by the way people talk that they're experiencing those benefits. So they're not just talking about it intellectually. And that's one of the things that I found from 35 years of working in major healthcare systems, is that the doctors that prescribe mind-body practices are the doctors who have experienced mind-body themselves. The ones who haven't experienced it themselves, they don't promote it because they have virtually zero education in mind-body science. And I've taught through University of Kansas Health System for their family medicine interns. They had no information about mind-body. All the health education is pharmaceutical driven. And so the vision of the Global Transformation Project is a United Nations resolution advocating mind-body, non-binding, so nobody would be forced to do it, no student, no school, no country, but it would be a recommendation to educators worldwide to be aware of the profound science on mind-body practices. So what we're talking about in the Global Transformation Project proclamation draft is Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga, meditation, and mindfulness, because all these have a mountain of information behind them. And so the goal is to get this United Nations resolution. And what it is to create a situation where educators around the planet will be inviting people like the incredible people, for example, that we had on this morning, into the public education system for a daily mind-body education program. And so, before I jump into how all this can happen, because it's all very tangible and possible, but I want to just, yeah, there's the Global Transformation Project website. I want to get into why. And so just give you a couple of things on them. Oh, that's good. So I wanted to get into why. We all know, everybody here knows that there's something just way off with our healthcare system, because at this point, with the science that is known, mind-body should be at the top of every prescription pad. There should be no doctor in the world that doesn't write mind-body practice right at the top of a prescription pad. And then if they need some pharmaceutical intervention, then that would go below that. And so the patient would be engaged in mind-body practices and education. And then the pharmaceutical would be a temporary situation to get them back to normalcy instead of a lifetime sentence like it is. And so what we know, Dr. Herbert Benson at Harvard he wrote the relaxation response, which everybody, a lot of you have probably read it, but anybody who hasn't, read the relaxation response. He was the first medical scientist to put the science on mind-body practices together. And I'm talking about Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga, meditation, mindfulness, repetitive prayer also showed alpha state production, taking you into that meditative state. And what his analysis determined was that somewhere between 60 and 90% of the health issues that were sending people to their doctors were caused by stress and best treated or prevented by mind-body practices. 60 to 90%. Now, Kaiser Permanente did a 20-year study, and they found that somewhere between 70 and 85% of the health issues sending people to their doctors were caused by stress. Now, as far as getting mind-body practices into the public education system, it's a real natural thing, because what the scientists have explained to us, we have a monthly program at the Global Transformation Project on YouTube channel, and the scientists explained to us that children are in a alpha state, a meditative state, quite most of the time, up to about age 7. So up to about age 7, that's when we're healing the fastest, and that's when we're learning at incredible rates. And then everything slows down when we start to go more into beta brainwaves, with all the school and rules and all the things that and so we lose touch with that ability to touch into alpha state, and we lose that ability for rapid healing and rapid learning. And so it's a real natural thing for children to be in alpha state. So mind-body programs could be taught at age-appropriate ways. Yoga for children, Qigong for children, Tai Chi for children. And we've taught it education at all levels, so we know it's possible. And then as they progress through the 12th grade, then it gets more sophisticated. So some of the presenters today would probably be talking to high school students about the concepts that they were talking about. But there's many teachers, and some of you are probably here today and watching, who are familiar with teaching children and know that you can teach these things in age-appropriate ways. So again, on the why, let's just take a little example of the pandemic and the global lockdowns that had wreaked havoc on society on so many levels, destroyed 500 million businesses around the world. So what the data shows on COVID is that the frontline healthcare workers who had high T cell counts, they were much less likely to contract COVID, and if they did, their symptoms were much less severe. Now, their counterparts who had low T cell counts, much more likely to catch COVID, much more likely to suffer from the consequences of it. There was a UCLA study, and there's been other studies, but there was a UCLA study particularly on Tai Chi. But you can find these things on yoga, meditation, mindfulness, self-hypnosis, where when people practice these things. But anyway, in the Tai Chi study at UCLA, they had a control group and they had a Tai Chi group. And they were looking at their T cell counts because they were looking at how the shingles virus was affecting their immune system. And what they found was that the Tai Chi group boosted their T cell count by 50%. Now, there was a European study that showed that the Tai Chi group boosted it by 100%. So somewhere between 50 and 100% boosting of T cell count by teaching people mind-body. Now, I know we had photos in our World Tai Chi Day newsletter of hospitals in China and Russia during the pandemic. And in their COVID wards, they had Tai Chi teachers teaching the patients in the ward Tai Chi, getting them to get up and move and breathe. And so just that one thing, if you just took that one thing, we could be boosting the T cell count of public education students all over the planet on a massive level. And so there's a consensus building, and what we know is that, those of us who've looked into the science, and I've immersed myself in it, talking to scientists, and I wrote a book called The Gospel of Science, Mind-Blowing New Science on Ancient Truths to Heal Our Stressed Lives and Planet. And it's in second edition. And it's 700 pages of collected science on consciousness, mind, body, and what it'll do for us. And when you look at that science, it's obvious that Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga, meditation, mindfulness, these practices are the most incredible high science that benefits us on so many levels, treats the overwhelming, which would prevent and treat the overwhelming majority of illnesses at a much reduced cost from this pharmaceutical driven healthcare system that we have. Now, I've been like I said, I've been in major health situations teaching mind body practices for 35 years. And when I first started, the very first class that we had was at a hospital called Shawnee Mission Medical Center. And back then, back in those days, it was Tai Chi and Qigong. They were kind of weird things. They weren't commonly known as they are today. And so a lot of doctors enrolled in the class. I just had a curiosity to see what we were doing in there. And what happened was in this 8-week session, it was a combination of, just breathing, visualization, gentle movement, and then I was teaching them a Tai Chi form as well. And after 8 weeks of this, these doctors were having amazing benefits. They were getting off hypertension meds. There was a surgeon who had chronic pain, limited mobility issue from a whiplash injury. And she'd been through all Western therapies. But after 8 weeks of this program, she got full mobility, no more chronic pain. I mean, it was blowing their minds. And in fact, 2 of the doctors forced their general practitioner to write them a prescription for the Tai Chi meditation class so that they could submit it to their insurance company because it had cured their hypertension in both cases. And so 35 years ago, me and these doctors in this room were very excited because we saw this new epic for healthcare in America. Well, it's still not here 35 years later. And it's not because the science isn't conclusive. It's not because this stuff couldn't change the planet, not only health-wise, but socially. I've taught in prisons. We could be emptying our prisons. We could be saving trillions of dollars every year. This is all factual. It's all in the gospel of science. And so we could be transforming this planet by simply advocating mind-body education for public education worldwide. So it'd be a combination of physical education, yoga, Tai Chi. They provide cardiovascular benefits as well as the meditative benefits. But then it would also be a health education, a mind-body education class. We're advocating 1 hour a day. It could replace a PE class, and with much better results. And but I mean, different schools can do it in different ways. They can do it for short periods. They can do it whatever. We're advocating 1 hour a day. And then people can do what they want to with it. But okay, so now on the how, people think, okay, well, this is all pie in the sky, a United Nations resolution to get mind-body education and to get brilliant teachers like the teachers who've been talking this morning into the public school systems, into their local public school systems. It's not pie in the sky at all, because in 2014, the United Nations General Assembly voted to create the International Day of Yoga to increase global health and global harmony. And that's exactly the reason for the Global Transformation Project resolution to advocate mind-body education and public education resolution for the United Nations. Now, what's interesting about this International Day of Yoga that was created in 2014 was that it was voted in by the General Assembly with a record number of co-sponsoring nations. 177 co-sponsoring nations voted to create this International Day of Yoga for the same purposes as the Global Transformation Project, to get it into public schools. So this is possible. The world is ready for something like this. And if we could get a proclamation, then every educator in the UK or the United States or whatever who understands the benefits of mind body could go to their school board or go to their administrative planning meeting with the United Nations resolution pointing to the science, the overwhelming science. Now, for education, we've talked about all these health benefits and cost savings and tremendous savings for society economically. But what does it do for the student in public education? The science shows that it increases IQs dramatically. People that practice mind-body practice on a regular basis, we all know this, that practice it, our IQs improve. We become smarter. We become more solution-oriented. Our GRE reading scores improve. Math proficiency skills improve. Verbal fluency improves. Social interactions between students, bullying goes down. All these things are the things that schools and parents and students desperately need to be expanded in public education. And so it just makes sense on so many levels and it can be done. So what I'll close with is one thing. Oftentimes I get introduced to talk about the Global Transformation Project as Bill's Global Transformation Project. Well, I came up with the idea because I'd been immersed in all this science and it was just pushed in my face that it's really irrational that the world has not already done this a long, long time ago. But the thing about it is at the globaltransformationproject.org, there's a petition that you can sign. And also, if you're an educator or a mind-body educator and you're involved, there's other ways that you can get involved. But you can sign the petition and you can ask other people to sign the petition. As long as this is viewed as Bill Douglas's Global Transformation Project, you can forget about it. It's never going to happen. World Tai Chi Day never would have happened because Bill and Angela Douglas did Tai Chi in Kansas City by themselves. It just, these global movements that have huge impacts around the planet, they're not a person, they're a whole bunch of people realizing that something's out of whack and something needs to change in a huge way. And this would change things in a huge way. So when there's programs like this program, and I'm not here, and people are talking about the Global Transformation Project, have you signed the petition? Have you looked at all that science? It's really amazing. When that happens, the Global Transformation Project will happen because we're not going to put all the work. We're going to contact every United Nations mission on the planet, but we're not going to put in all that work until we have at least 100,000 signatures. And with all the people that understand what mind-body can do for us and know that it would do it for the planet as well, we should easily have millions of signatures to take to these United Nations missions, and then we can make this happen. This can really happen. It's not pie in the sky, but it's got to happen without Bill Douglas being here. There has to be programs like this going on week after week after week after week when you guys get together that say, oh yeah, have you guys talked about the Global Transformation Project and signed the petition and told people about it? Because that's the only way that it's going to happen. It's all the science shows that when we become we instead of me and you, that's when huge things happen. This is all scientifically validated because the International Day of Yoga and World Tai Chi Day, when people do these mind-body practices together all over the planet, the Princeton Engineering Director of Research, Dr. Roger Nelson, who's the director of the Global Consciousness Project, he showed that when we come together in connection and healing and compassion, that we actually change the global consciousness. And so we have the data on that. It's in the Gospel Science book, shows how the International Day of Yoga increased coherence and global consciousness in that 24 hours. And World Tai Chi Day did the same thing. And so, and that's another aspect of this. By expanding the number of people around the planet in public education who are going into alpha state on a daily basis, that's going to have a huge positive impact on the global consciousness. And the data shows that this will help reduce crime and conflict in cities all over the world. This isn't like spiritual platitudes. This is hard. This is hard science. And so we are the first generation to have all this science. And we're in a position where we can change the future of humanity if we can come together and make this thing happen together. globaltransformationproject.org.
Bill, once again, we hold our hands up in admiration for the work that you, Angela, and others have done. And I'm pleased to see that Siobhan is actually promoting some stuff on the pages here.
Thank you. Well, you know, what we practice is poetry, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because we know that it's poetry in motion and, well, meditation in motion, which is then connected to our divine selves.
You know, it's really interesting you say that because at our World Tai Chi Day event yesterday, me and Angela had gone to a poetry reading about a week before. And so the poetry people asked us if we had any announcements. And so we said, yeah, we're having World Tai Chi Day next Saturday. And so some of the poetry people showed up. And so I introduced all the Tai Chi people to the poetry reading organizers. And I said, you guys need to start going because every Tai Chi teacher, whether we know it or not, is a poet, because we're always struggling to articulate experiences and feelings, you know, like a poet does.
Ah, how perfect is that?
Okay,
Well, take
can
We're
I?
writing the poetry of the future of the planet, if you think about it.
Yes, yes, you are. And let's write some poetry. Let's read some poetry of what we've done, written poetry. The next
But
I
time.
have a poem. I have a poem, if you want to hear it real quick. It's pretty
Oh,
short,
yeah, I
Keith.
would love to. I write poetry. Please.
Okay, it's called An
Tai
Awakening.
Ching, I think there is a question for you as well. Can you please tell us about your World Council for Health?
Maybe later. Let's listen to the poetry first, shall we?
Sure, definitely.
I would love to.
True
Let's
poetry.
Please
hear
go
it.
ahead.
Okay, well, it goes like this. It's called An Awakening. Life had the appeal of a West Texas jail, till the siren of life dropped her 10,000 veils, and the truth that is me no longer whimpered but wailed like a million volcanoes neath King Triton's mad gales. Through the womb of a dream, I redefined me, I an army of armies, a trembling leaf on a tree. Faith not the issue, belief had now become me, far beyond definitions of a word called free. Beyond nightmares of Auschwitz, beyond precious Christ, beyond a mocking constipation I once referred to as life.
Through my eyes all could see. As creation breathed me, I was everywhere and nowhere in between matters seems. I was young and old, meek yet bold, walking past, so far past the tiny roads we've been told. No preacher preached it, no president decreed it. But if your soul had a hunger, this is the trough where you'd feed it. Deep inside, we all see it. In simple truth, we all be it.
Amazing.
Thank you very much.
Amazing.
I,
And
Beautiful.
can I,
you
sorry to interrupt you, but I see that we're also